Commence primary ignition.
Hi, I'm Yeleni Kushin. I played Varys Offee in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina Network.
Hello, everybody, and you are very welcome to the Blabba the Hutt Takeover episode right here on the Virtual Cantina Network. My name is Gary O'Toole, aka Plocool, and I am the co-host of the Irish Star Wars podcast, Blabba the Hutt. Joining me today is a man who needs absolutely no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. So he is Mr. VCN, and a man of which I share three things in common. Number one, we share a love and passion for a little thing called Star Wars. We also share a deep love and connection with all things collectible and memorabilia. And finally, and I think most importantly, and I think this is the true thing that binds us, we both have the misfortune of sharing a last name which is usually butchered at every single opportunity. So I am delighted to say that I am finally been joined by my brother in the Force. Spencer, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Gary. Thank you so much. It feels weird not being in the one spot today, but it's a lot of fun and nevertheless, but very excited about this episode. You never know what is going to happen. You never know what I might slip up and reveal. I don't know. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that right now, mining the com and also uh, reading the comments and putting them up and all that jazz is one of our executive producers for the VCN, Mr. Jeff Caffrey. So, Jeff, thank you very much for helping us out today and coming up with this great screen that we have here. But I also want to plug right now, this is a very immersive show. So if you have any comments or anything that you want to put on, we are live on the VCN. We're live at Blabba the Hutt. We're live on the Facebook, and we are live on Instagram. Make sure that you have your StreamYard all hooked up to Facebook, which is StreamYard.com slash, sorry, is it Facebook.com/StreamYard. Link them up together so we can have your name all queued up. It says so you won't be Facebook user when we go up there. But very excited about today's show. You never know what's going to happen on this particular show. I don't really know what's going to happen. I have a loose idea, but Gary, all you, brother.
Well, first and foremost, I suppose, how are you and how was your vacay?
Vacation was absolutely fantastic. It's always lovely when I'm able to spend some time with the wife away from work and all that jazz. But feeling great. Very excited about the rest of this year, which is really a lot of things that are planning for not only our trip, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Getting ready for obviously for Japan. Getting ready for Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, and in the middle of Bad Batch season 3. But we'll talk about all that here. But I'm very excited. It's a great year for Star Wars, and a lot of great things to get ready for the next couple of years.
There is a course, but first we're going to get started on the Virtual Cantina Network. And so for those watching and listening at home, welcome to all the new members. The membership numbers, Spencer, have continued to rise on the VCN. So for those who aren't in the know, can you give, let's say, our first-time listener and viewers a little bit of a background of what the VCN is and how it actually became to be what it is now?
So the Virtual Cantina Network now has, or our Facebook page at least, which is the Virtual Cantina Network, runs and operates the world's largest Star Wars Celebration fan page. That is, we are not affiliated with Disney or Lucasfilm or any other company. The Virtual Cantina Network is actually trademarked. We actually own the name of the group, and we operate the world's largest Star Wars Celebration fan group, which now has 63,000 members worldwide. The group started a little bit before Orlando 2017, which is actually where I met Gary, um, and has grown exponentially to not only be a fully functional vlogcast network with shows almost every single day. Uh, a number of producers, great, at least 15 different hosts for the shows, production, uh, sorry, a manager for all of our promotions and shows, which is Mark Von Olen, who is a name that needs no introduction in the Star Wars universe and the fandom. And we have all of our different social medias that we're involved in. We do live meetups at different Comic Cons. And it all leads up to the fact that celebration can be a very, very, very jarring thing in itself. Getting to meet people, and even if you have not gone to a celebration at all, you get really freaked out. But the fact is that what we try to do is that we try to have these events and these online watch alongs and meetups and all that nature. So when you actually go to celebration, you do not feel so much alone. There's people who come to our Bunta Eve events and run to people online. Oh, I met you last night. Oh, you sang this great song karaoke. Yeah, but then they feel like they come out, one more friend than they had when they walked in the door, which is great. And it's amazing how, it's grown to what it is right now and as a recognized, group and brand within the Star Wars fandom, which is pretty awesome. And it's all happened organically. So it's awesome.
Well, you've actually mentioned organically, and that's one thing that I wanted to touch on. The amount of interaction with the viewership members of the Facebook group and things like that. Was that something as it is now that you were aiming towards, or was it something that you never anticipated reaching the levels that it has gotten to now?
I always thought of it initially as a feeding ground for celebration and getting the most up to date information right away. And I think when it really started to take off was actually around 2019 Chicago, when I actually really started seeing the impact that the group had on the fandom. Whereas I would jump in and do my news desks with, talking about how to prep for celebration, whether it be for autographs or, your setting up an Excel spreadsheet for, your now what you want to do, the rule of three that I always talk about, which I'll talk about at later dates, when we get back to celebration, which basically a lot of people live by when it comes to their celebration experience. I never imagined that it was going to grow as big, but like I said, after Chicago, I just saw it growing and growing and growing. And then the VCN really came out of COVID because we were looking for some sort of interaction, and it just has grown. Um, so we're, like I said, 15 different hosts. We have a promotions manager, programming manager with Mark. We have two executive producers with Jeff and Dave O'Neill, and we're just, it's growing. I'm very excited. I'm very happy about it. We're going fully multimedia. We got some great things that we have planned, leading into our trip in California, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, it's really about the brand. It's really about our love for Star Wars and also being in a location where it's a not toxic environment in the Star Wars fandom, which is, it can happen and it happens. But the fact is that going to a place where you can be happy and not feel judged for what you like. I mean, there are aspects of Star Wars that I particularly am not 100% fond of, but there's parts that I like that people don't like as well. It's completely okay, and we want to make sure that it is okay for everybody to celebrate their differences as opposed to, oh, you're not a fan because you liked X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's one thing that I always say to people, my Star Wars would not be your Star Wars and vice versa. We all have our own ideas of what Star Wars means to us and what we would like to see on the big and small screen. But to sort of kick on a little bit more on what you're saying, as you said, VCN sort of came out of COVID, and I suppose last year was sort of the first full con season post COVID. So with all of that in mind and everything getting back to sort of normality or whatever your definition of normality is, how would you actually sum up last year for the VCN?
I think that it was our best year in
Okay.
many capacities. First and foremost, as you were very much involved in our prep for Celebration in London as a co-host of the news desks, but also, being on stage, doing a live Blabba live at Boonta Eve London to a sold out crowd, uh, packed the entire day, a sold out event. It was big time for us to have to, first off, to be able to produce that show over in London. But I'd be remiss if I didn't, give a quick shout out to Martin Keeler over at hashtag Cantina and to DJ Elliot Hansen for, encouraging me to come over there, but also the fact the camaraderie between uh, Cantina and the VCN to put together, honestly, something that was for unique for the fans, that was completely different in each element, but worked together to make sure that there's two really incredible after hours events for the fandom in London, outside with different guests that were not on the floor at Celebration. And also, I think that also, as far as a brand was concerned, the fact that we were, initially we were not thinking about running at all. And Martin and Elliot, DJ Elliot, were very much at the forefront of saying, "You guys got to go. You guys got to go." And that literally, we were talking about this before the show. We were close to 50,000 members when I landed at Heathrow Airport before Celebration. I
Hmm.
left that weekend at 60,000 members. So 10,000 members over that week. It was ridiculous. But we also had, our Celebration nightly news over here in the States that we were feeding information from London, and they were doing their nightly show while we were all sleeping, over the pond. And it was, I think overall that the VCN grew uh, in spades, really. I mean, as far as our brand over in Europe and also, involvement with Blabba, what would you say the VCN experience was over 2023?
Well, for me, when I look at the VCN, I look on it with nothing but pride. As you mentioned, we met purely by chance at Celebration Orlando, and we've just stayed in touch and obviously gotten closer since then. But I look back on this year's Boonta as nothing but incredible. You were kind enough to have us on to do a live show, and the support that we got from everybody there was just incredible, because the one thing that we did try and do for Celebration was everything that we did for our live shows was to promote Ireland. And we were very, very lucky that at Boonta Eve, all of the prizes that we were able to give away were all made by Irish artists. They were people who gave up their time, their talent, and their expertise to donate prizes to us to give away, of which it was my honor and privilege to give you the Castle Vader skull,
Oh, that was
which you
fantastic.
received from the one and only Ken Coleman. But I think with an event like that, the proof is in the pudding, Spencer. You've already said it was sold out. You increase by 10,000 just by solely one event. And you look at the list of talent that was there on the nights, split between VCM being at the event and then moving to Cantina. It had everything. So the proof is in the pudding there. But I think 2023 was definitely the biggest year, and I think year on year it will continue to grow. And obviously now with more and more Star Wars news coming out, as the Lucasfilm slate seems to be a little bit clearer on the big and small screen, I think we're gonna push towards more and more and more to eventually maybe reach a triple number going into Celebration Japan.
That's my hope. I put a lofty goal to the group, saying I want 50 by London, and I walked in thinking it was not going to happen, and all of a sudden it happened. I would love 100 by Japan next year. Can it happen? Stranger things have happened in the last couple of years, so who knows? But I'm putting out the goal of 100, but at least I'm hoping that by the following celebration, which we don't know when it's going to be. I have my opinions of where it should be and where it should be, but at least within the next two celebrations for us to be at 100,000 members.
And I think it's a reasonable target. I don't think it's unrealistic at all. You know, we've got to aim high. And speaking of aiming high, now it's time to get into some of the upcoming events that are within the VCN network. So, Jeff, could you please load the family logo for Cali? Here we go. So, Spencer, before we get onto this is obviously a major part of 2024, but what is the trajectory for the VCN for this year?
So everything we're doing right now, a lot of it is going very much into our second family vacation, which we had our first in 21, where for 3 days we invaded Universal, Epcot, and Batu East, and it was absolutely incredible time. And it being an off year of celebration, we're like, well, let's do something, and let's do something big, especially considering the fact that maybe I would say maybe like a quarter of us might even be going over to Japan for celebration next year. So let's do something huge for those fans who, especially who didn't go to London, as well as might not go to Japan, but here on the East Coast, not on the East Coast, on the United States soil. So we have this huge trip, which is literally butt up against San Diego Comic Con 2024. Literally, we start the day after con. Um, so a lot of us are going to be going to, San Diego and then going straight down to the family vacation, which we start on the Monday, the 29th of July. And with that, we're going to start off in LA, head from LA to Anaheim, Anaheim to San Francisco and back. But what's unique about this, besides, making several different stops, which we'll talk about, is each different stop is going to have its very own unique Boonty Eve special edition as we stop. And the first one, which I'm very, very excited, I'm excited about all three of them. But the first one I'm excited about is first I want to talk about the T-shirt. Look at that T-shirt. I'm actually wearing it right now. It's got the family truckster from National Lampoons with X-Wing foils on it, with Carson Teva actually sitting in the driver's seat, because we all love Paulie. He's just incredible in whatever he does. But this family vacation T-shirt is exclusive to those who bought full trip tickets to go to all the stops on the trip. There's a lot of people who are going to maybe one or two stops. If you go to all the stops and you have a full ticket, you actually get this exclusive T-shirt, which is pretty awesome. Very, very excited about that. Like I said, it's not going to be available at our merchandise booth. It's not going to be available for sale outside. There's less than 20 tickets left for the trip. So if you want one of these shirts, that's the only way you're going to be able to get one of these shirts. But I'm very excited about what we're doing. The first event that we're going to be doing, I'm very excited about, is actually going to be at the Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood. And I got to give it up to our producer, Jeff, on this show, who had this idea for a long time for us to do something at Scum. And we finally got the opportunity to do that. And I can tell you right now that we have between 16 to 18 actors
That's
that
a
are
very specific number.
scheduled to come to the event. Not to say that other people might not show up, because I seem to have read in the trades recently that there was like a $27 million tax write-off to get to a certain movie to happen in California that's filming this summer. Oh my God, yeah, and it's filming a couple of miles away from where we're going to be. You disseminate from there. You never know who's going to show up at that point. So, um, I can say this. This is going to be a themed event. Every one of our events are going to be themed. So I will say right now, without giving too much away, this is going to be heavy Filoni-verse influenced Boonty Eve.
You've heard it here first, folks, so make sure you plan accordingly.
We have announced already. We had some great guests announced. First and foremost, obviously, Virtual Cantina Hall of Fame members Chris Bartlett and Leilani Shu have been announced already, as well as Dawn Deininger and Misty Rosas.
Mhm.
We already also announced the first U.S. signing. He's doing a signing in Europe this year. The first U.S. signing of Senator Ziono himself, Nelson Lee, is going to be signing at our Boonta Eve, as well as Warren Prolix and Pam Riddle. So we're very, very excited about that. More names will be coming in the next couple of months, but those are people who are going to be at Scum and Villainy, plus a whole slew of others, and you never know who else is going to show up. Signing autographs, doing meet and greets, and if you have a full ticket to the event, I mean for the whole trip, you get in a full hour before the general public does to have time with the guests, which is pretty awesome. And then karaoke that night. Like I already announced, Misty Rosas, she sang with our eventual Alderaan Idol champion AJ at the Alderaan Idol 2022 in Anaheim. So you never know who else might be up there and getting up on the block to go and sing. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, why stop there? That's number one. Why not jump straight into number two?
Number two, we're heading back up to Anaheim. We're heading over to Fullerton, which was the home of Boonta Eve 2022 at Big's Bar and Grill. They were happy and gracious enough to bring us back for another event at their location, which we are very excited about. I can say right now, so we have already announced one name is going to be here, and he is known as the Bespin Boba. He is also known as Dak, the rebel trooper who could take on the entire empire. Luke's gunner, Mr. John Morton. So we know John Morton is going to be there. I would say we're probably going to have a good about 6 to 8 guests there, and figure that this is going to be a very OT prequel esque type of event. And I'm very, very happy, and I can make an official announcement here that we're going to have two exclusive signing vendors at this particular event. One, of course, is going to be our good friends Richard and Sarah over at Skywalking Through Neverland.
Neverland. Yep.
They're going to be signing their books, History of Star Wars. This day in Star Wars history, and they have a fantastic show. Where, we are very much affiliated with the Skywalking Network, but also bringing back former PR director of Lucasfilm, Mr. Craig Miller, going to be there and signing his book and having his memorabilia of the original trilogy of what a lot of stuff he did, patches, prints, signing. It's going to be so much fun, plus also a lot more autographs and karaoke as well. Last year was a completely immersive experience. We're planning to do the same thing over in Anaheim, so I'm very, very excited about that, to be going back there. But our third and final Boonta, we just announced, is going to be Boonta Eve Special Edition San Francisco, and we're going to a pub called Ireland's 32, which is very, very exciting. I want to give it up to our member Sully, who hooked us up, former member of the Bay, resident of the Bay Area, of this great location, where we're going to have karaoke. But we announced our first name, and I believe it's the first public signing with ILM Academy Award winner, Mr. Hal Hickel. Now, if you're not familiar with Hal Hickel, he was nominated for the Academy Award for Rogue One. He won for Dead Man's Chest. He is the creator of the Droideka. So, and just want to say, Black Series just announced a Droideka coming out this spring. So,
and if you pronounce it right, Kia, we won't be offended. We're okay. We accept both.
Thank you. So very excited about that. Hal's been on our show several times. Very fortunate to have him as a member of our VCN family. And we're going to have about like 5 to 6 different guests at this particular one. Like I said, very excited about that. And we're going to top it off that weekend with not only going over to the Disney Family Museum, which is actually at the Presidio, but we're also going to do our final family vacation portrait at the Yoda Fountain.
Nice.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. But I'd be remiss to say is that we're going to have a mass. All these Boonta Eves are free to come to. Just want to throw that out there. There's no entry fee to come to the Bunta. Obviously, all the actors will have their different rates for their autographs and selfies, which we will reveal later this spring. Programming to be announced. But on Wednesday, July 31st, the virtual Cantina invades Disneyland. We are heading over to Disney and we are going to be hitting in a big way. In 2021, we hit Batu East and we all showed up, 50 of us wearing virtual Cantina racers. And it was awesome to see our colors flying over Batu. And we're going again this year. And I want to say that if you are one of the lucky folks that has a full ticket to the entire trip, your Disney ticket is included. And we got some special things planned for Disneyland. So just imagine now close to 100, if not more, virtual Cantina members taking over Batu. It's going to be pretty insane. And just it's going to be an incredible time.
It will be 100. And just to go back to the theming a little bit, at these events, you're talking about specific theming. Does that mean that, let's say, particular menu items of the liquid variety might follow similar suit?
I would imagine so. I would imagine, obviously, at least in the first two, there might be some wretched blue milk showing up somewhere. We had a Mandalorian Mai Tai at our event in Anaheim that will be returning. We had a specialized shot called Liquid Schwartz. Little Spaceballs play. So there was some great food and drink items. But Jeff, you're get on the guide mic for a minute. You are a regular over at Scum and Villainy. What sort of themed stuff do they have there?
Scum is an overall geek bar. Everybody calls it a Star Wars bar, but it's more than that. It's very Star Wars-esque in its interior, its look. Its main room is reminiscent of the original Cantina from Episode 4. But there's there's Star Trek references on it with some of the display panels in certain parts of the restaurant or the bar. It's also a restaurant. They serve some great food as well. And they have Gollum sitting up in the corner. They have all kinds of different things on display that are related to other properties that just different fandoms in general. So a lot of different companies and things want to get involved with them because they're so inclusive. I think the OneRing.net does or did their podcast regularly from that location. So that's Lord of the Rings. It's they do a lot sort of just in general. It's not a Star Wars bar, it's a geek bar.
And they have a great deal of themed foods and beverages there, right?
Yeah, all their drinks are themed after different properties. So they, like you mentioned, the Wretched Blue Milk is obviously a play on Blue Milk from Star Wars, although it has alcohol in it. I'm pretty sure they weren't drinking an alcoholic drink at the breakfast table with Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen. But, they have all different things. They bring in some in and out. Some are regularly on the menu, and then they'll change things based on what's, current properties and things sometimes. I know they were doing an event the other day for Superman's birthday, and they had a kryptonite drink. So Superman couldn't partake, but everybody else could.
Nice.
That's absolutely incredible. So there you go, Gary.
And probably a silly question. I know we've mentioned some stuff, but this is a Bunta Eve / VCN event. So surely there's going to be some swag, right?
Oh, there's always some swag. One of our swag masters, Joanna and Mark, they are planning some great stuff, which there's maybe some exclusive swag for those who are part of the full trip. And we'll have some swag trading going on, throughout the trip as well. I mean, I just ordered 2 items of myself that I am going to be having, as personal swag. I just had a third designed. So there'll be a lot of swag, trading throughout the entire trip, whether it be at each event. I know some people are planning a different swag for every Bunta, including Disneyland. We had a great swag meetup actually at Batu East in 21. which was that was actually pretty cool. And also, obviously, on the buses to San Francisco, we do some trading as well. Um, but I can honestly say that I got a button that I'm really excited about. It actually says, "Friends don't let friends hawk the trek." Um, so that's gonna be one of my personal swags for the trip. But it's gonna be great. But also want to plug one more thing that is going to be there is that if you've been to any one of our Bunta Eve events or to see us celebration or any other cons, you've seen that Virtual Cantina Network has had racers made. They're very similar to what you might see the 501st have, and we actually use a similar producer of
Did
ours.
did did Juan make them?
No, it's not one. It's actually a gentleman by the name of Eddie out of New Jersey. His Iron Panda Studios did
Oh, Pansy,
ours.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But we have this new one for the trip, which is very much you got the Hollywood sign, but it's over Mustafar. I want it to be a very much Hollywood Hills, Star Wars thing, but you have, Lego Star Wars. I mean, plus you got a shirt right there with Chewie in board shorts holding a surfboard right there. And on the back, you got the Golden Gate Bridge. And there's a couple of Star Trek Easter eggs in there because we happen to be going to San Francisco. If you happen to have seen, I don't know, Star Trek 4, there might be a whale tail in there somewhere. There might be a Klingon bird of prey. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. But it's very excited about that. And those are on sale until the 15th of March. So we can have them in time for the trip. And they're great for people who want to be part of the trip and have it, or not go on the trip, but love our racers and collected them all. We have about 5 racers out currently, and they're all limited edition to certain events that we have. We had an incredible one for London with a Rancor climbing Big Ben as if it was King Kong, and a good God Save the Queen with Padme, little Sex Pistols reference on the back. So that was good. We got already our idea for Japan pretty much locked, which I'm very, very excited about that one. And we'll reveal that later. But this racer is available now. It can be ordered. It is $70 and you can get it picked up either in Chicago, have it shipped to your home, or you could pick it up at Bunta Eve at our merchandise stand. It's only going to be pre-order. You will not be able to buy the item actually at Bunta. So, that's something that we're very, very proud of and very excited about that. I'm excited about everything we do because I feel that it just adds something else to your experience and you feel like you can belong. There's a lot of groups out there and they're fantastic groups. They're very, I like to say back when you need to apply to become a member. You need to have a certain demographic or certain design that is exclusive and accurate to get into, which is completely awesome. We absolutely love that. But we also want something for people who just your everyday person who's a Star Wars fan to feel like they belong to something. This is what the virtual cantina is all about.
Yeah. And with so many events coming up, we've obviously given some great tidbits there. And as you've said, there might be a couple of things hidden on the racing shirt. Easter eggs is part and parcel of the Star Wars realm. But if somebody who has never been to a VCN event before that is actually going to sign up, what would be sort of your key things that you would advise them to do or to be aware of before making the trip?
So I'm going to ask Jeff to get back on the God mic for a second because Jeff has actually been to, whether in one capacity or another, every one of our big events.
Well,
Jeff,
London.
but in one capacity or another, you help with the prep for London, obviously. But you were there since our first event in Orlando. What would you say is a unique thing about our events in general that keep people coming back? I mean, like I said, you came to our first event because you loved our swag, and then after Chicago, when you were just came to our event, you were full-fledged in the crew for the VCN and the playing stages. What do you think brings people to our events?
I don't know. It just seems like maybe it's a nice little a little event versus some of these things are overblown. But they I guess they offer enough options to attract, a variety of people. Like you said, I was all about trying to get the pin that came along with, getting a ticket or whatever it was. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But they do tend to appeal to a broad variety of fans in different capacities. So, you know, I'm might have had something prepared had I known I was going to be asked this question.
No, that's not a problem. But
We said there would be grillings, Jeff. So
but I can also say is that in the capacity of like getting to know people and the fandom, Jeff has gone to LA cons and held meetups at the cons himself, but also he has his own private like chat with like local people where the virtual cantina has basically a presence quite often at Batu West. Like Jeff and Mike and Kareen, and they run to
Mike is
other.
currently there.
Mike is
in the
there right
rain.
now in the rain. Well, he works there. We know that. So, but it's
Also,
about
John Chiato should be there as well today. That was the plan.
nice. So yeah. So like I said, it's we get friends from all over, and we end up doing stuff together. And I think that that's what it's all about. Is that there's people from our group of all walks of life, and the one thing I like to say, and we have a member, he knows who he is, who was just like a lot of us who Star Wars is not cool growing up, or is on the fringe and you really didn't talk about it really too much, and really felt that he found his tribe and honestly was able to be the person that he always thought he could be, but did have the outlet because of society or what nature. And now he not only comes to our events, he kicks the FOMO anytime he has it. And he actually hosted a group event at his home this past year in North Carolina, which was
Nice.
fantastic. So I just want it's a place where some people can be themselves, and I think that's what's great about the group. And our meetup is that, like I said, we have people from all walks of life, every economic area you could possibly have, but they feel like we're all equals. We all do our thing. We all have the love of Star Wars, and we're all grateful to be part of something within the fandom that is positive,
Mhm.
which is the most important thing.
Yeah, no person left behind, and I think I would speak from experience as well when I say with these events, you will find your place there. You will find kindred spirits. You will find people who are into exactly what you are, think the way you do, and enjoy the things you do. So it will be a very, very safe and enjoyable environment without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about what we have in the future. Like I said, we have a bunch of meetups coming up. We have one at Galaxy Con in Richmond, Virginia coming up.
Mhm.
We are going to have a meetup at San Diego Comic-Con, even though we have the trip a couple of days later. That is already planned. Fan Expo Boston was always a great one. We did karaoke with Emily Swallow last year, which was awesome. One of our biggest ones is the Rhode Island Comic Con meetup. So we'll have a lot of great con meetups around the world. We'll talk about some things that are happening internationally in a little bit, but very much excited about and we also feel that when one of us is together, we're all together. So it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe he went there. No, we're there too, because we're usually seeing pictures and feeling very much like, wow, we're there. And the love and the camaraderie, and when people are sending pictures of their racers over in Australia, over in Ireland, over in England, and throughout the United States, I'm always like, wow, we really hit global. So it's pretty amazing.
It is 100%, and I would advise anybody and everybody who is able to go to take the plunge. Like you said, there's only something like 20 tickets left. Don't second guess it. Just do it. Just do it.
Especially if you're not going to Japan, because this might be your
Yeah.
only real big Star Wars event other than regular cons until 27. That's my
Potentially.
guess. That's my
If it,
guess.
yeah. Hmm.
That's my guess. Honestly, I mean, we could talk about that for a quick second. They got so much on the docket to come out after Celebration 25
Hmm.
that it would make sense to wait for the 50th of Star Wars and then have a celebration because they'll have like 5 or 6 properties that they can show trailers for and do panels for. 26 is going to be very limited about new properties. It's going to be all the leftover stuff from London.
Yeah, and it's actually a nice segue into what we were going to discuss, because with this being the VCN, we would be remiss if we did not actually talk about the upcoming year for. Although we should say that, as we said, tickets are on sale, so make sure people dive right in and get them. But from that, then, Spencer, our thoughts on Star Wars this year. Previous years, it seems to have been, there's always a talk of an oversaturation and quality versus quantity. For my personal thoughts on this, and then I'd love to hear yours, was that we have to be going towards quality over quantity now. I think that we have to have character-driven stories that are at the forefront and the heart of any product that is released. But also, I think having Dave in his new role will give him, further responsibility and authority to shine. But I think coming up, we have the likes of things like the Acolyte that is number one for me at the moment. I'm absolutely stoked for the Acolyte. I've seen some comments during the week from Amanda, and I think it's shaping up to be a really interesting product, because we are at a time where the Jedi are at their most powerful, and we have technically never ever seen that period of sort of tranquility and prosperity before. But going to you, what do you think the upcoming year for Star Wars is, and what trajectory do you think it will take?
So we already know that the Filoniverse rules Star Wars, and by one, we saw that happen. The student became the master, if you will. The Padawan's now the master, the Jedi master. Um, Acolyte's gonna be incredible because the High Republic is very fringe right now. I would say there's not a lot of people who are, there's a lot of people that are diehard High Republic fans, and there's some people who just don't have the patience really to read. But to have a show, um, very, very excited about it. We saw the first viewing of the trailer at Celebration London, which was fantastic. Also got to see Jonas coming back as a new character, new Wookiee character, which might be a nice clue from the High Republic because there is a Jedi Wookiee. But also Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix joining the Star Wars universe. We had an opportunity to chat with her at Rhode Island Comic Con. She's like, "You have no idea what's coming." So be very excited. And I kind of looked at the trailer as almost like the Matrix in Star Wars, and obviously because you got Trinity right there. But I think it's been really cool for there because we've not explored the world of the Sith at all, period, and its story. So this is supposed to be very Sith driven, end of High Republic, right into the the old Republic time period, moving towards the prequel era from there. I'm excited about that. Obviously, we're involved in Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, which I thought was a sleeper hit last year. There another season supposed to be coming out, which I'm excited about that. I'm praying for Balin Skull to be part of it. That's just me personally. I would love more about that character. Skeleton
Crew, I think, is a sleeper. Yeah, I completely agree.
Now, one thing that they talked about with John Watts, we talked about in London, is he's a child of the '80s first and foremost, and he wanted Amblin adventure. Who was Queen Amblin? Kathleen Kennedy back then with the Goonies. So if this is going to be Goonies in space,
and we've talked about this numerous times.
So we'll see. I do know it is set up in the time of the Filoniverse. So we saw a trailer and we saw a character from a villain character from season 3 Mandalorian does make an appearance. That is confirmed in Skeleton Crew. Plus also you have Jude Law, who is a phenomenal actor. You might know him for many different properties. Obviously the youngest version of Albus Dumbledore. Yep. Exactly. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be great for everybody who is a Star Wars fan, but an adventure. So I think that that's really on the docket right now. And I also think that we talked about oversaturation there in Star Wars, a major oversaturation in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That Marvel only has one property coming out this summer, which actually comes out San Diego Comic-Con weekend, which is Deadpool and Wolverine, which I can't believe is coming out the same weekend as Comic-Con, because Ryan Reynolds is probably running around the floor dressed up, just trolling people, because why not to advertise your property that comes out that weekend? But with less Marvel and a little more Star Wars, I think that's been great. Plus, also, we got the announcement of another movie that was not announced at Celebration, which, from what I'm hearing, it's not going to be the end of the Filoniverse, because we all know that Dave has his Avengers-esque movie coming out maybe in 28. But we have Mandalorian Grogu, which might be the end, at least, of the Mandalorian chapter of the story, and keeping on, getting ready for which, if they call it this, I hope they do it justice, but the heir to the empire, which is, I hear, is what people are calling it at this point. But I'm like, that's such a loved book. I don't know if they should call it that, but that's just my own opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that Star Wars has some really, really great stuff going right now. Like I said, we're talking about right now in the middle of the final season of Bad Batch, and good stuff. I mean, we got some good stuff going on right now.
And I think we got a bit of a tease the other day, didn't we? With Ahmed Best doing some mocap stuff. There's people debating: is he going to be appearing as Jar Jar once more, or is there something else that he may be involved with? So I seen a headline where somebody was throwing in again that Fallen Order 3 or whatever they're going to call it, that could be another avenue for him as well. I mean, the reception was amazing. Again, we could just be being completely trolled, but how good would that be to have him again around the Star Wars universe?
It's funny, because I think it came to a hit back in 2019 at Celebration, when it was the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace. And I admit that I was not a lover of the prequel trilogy initially. I loved it because it was Star Wars, but I was not like, oh my God, the prequels, the prequels, the prequels. When I went to Celebration Chicago, and I saw the love that Ahmed got after all the heat that he got for years and the standing ovation he got, I really took a hard look at myself, and I actually said, something? The parents of today are the kids of the prequels. They're bringing their kids in there. It's not necessarily my Star Wars anymore. It's the prequel kids' Star Wars at this generation right now. So I went back after Celebration and rewatched the prequels that are, new eyes, and have a great appreciation for them at this time. When we saw him appear as Kelleran Beck from the Jedi Temple game, and all of a sudden is the savior of Grogu, only in one episode, I honestly felt I don't even need to know any more about who saved Grogu. I felt that you having it as Ahmed Best, it basically was redemption for him. And that one episode alone, I was like, I can move on. I don't want to know more. I'm sure as a fan, they're going to give us more because they love to feed to the ADD in us. But, I'm completely okay with, and at peace with Ahmed Best after Celebration, and finally figuring out that he was the savior of Grogu.
Yeah, and it was overwhelmingly positive to see stuff like that. And I suppose in this day and age, there can darkness rises and light to meet it. There has been some, losses within the Star Wars universe. Obviously, we're talking Carl Weathers and Shauna, but then most recently, and it was something that I was really looking forward to on the slate this year to at least be finding out more, is Sony cutting 8% of their workforce, and the Mando FPS being cancelled. I just don't want the gaming to fall by the wayside, because as a gamer, I want to see more Fallen Order. I want to see Star Wars Eclipse, which was the High Republic game that we saw, tidbits of, and we are still waiting to hear more news about that. So it's been some difficult times as well, but I think there is positivity in that, and as we move forward, it will be a case that it will shine through, and that's my sincere hope for that.
I think also the fact that we got Dave.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni should take over Lucasfilm, and I'm like, no, Dave Filoni should take over creative.
Yeah.
And maybe Yeah, allow him to do what he wants to because he doesn't want to sit in board meetings. He doesn't want to deal with the higher ups. He wants to be creating, writing, and making sure there's an overall continuity between all the properties that are going on there. And he is exactly where he needs to be. And I think you're going to see that in the future programming that you know having Dave in that role is going to be leaps and bounds. And right now with Bad Batch season 3, because I know we're about to start talking about that,
Hmm.
we're at the tail end of the Lucas ideas. George Lucas was one of the people who actually thought about, Troop 99. And so this is one of the last Lucas original ideas that's coming to fruition. So Filoni ideas, which are always going to be influenced by George, is really taking the helm. That's why we lovingly call it the Filoniverse, and we welcome it with open arms because it has the blessing of the maker.
Yeah, and that's a great segue in. So with Bad Batch, then I think season 3 has so much more meaning. So, sort of, my question to you is: first of all, how are you liking it so far? And secondly, as you mentioned, this is sort of the tail end, or the I suppose the last of the Lucas ideas, if you will, that Filoni is then going to take on. Does season 3 of the Bad Batch then have an even more important role to play, in that if it's closing a door on one chapter, it's going to have to open multiple windows to allow new ideas and creativity to come through?
I absolutely agree with that. I'm loving the season because I love Mark Van Olen said this once. Star Wars is its best when it's dark and it's weird, really. And right now, with what's going on in Bad Batch season 3, we're getting a lot of link up about what things have happened in Rise of Skywalker, things have happened in Mandalorian. You're seeing the beginnings of it, which are now starting to segue those medium times that we don't have a lot of information for at this particular time. So I'm very, very excited about that. I think that the whole redemption arc of Crosshair and Omega becoming more than just a clone kid right now is pretty exciting. Um, I think that it's really starting to catch its groove. I mean, look at last season. We were all shocked when they destroyed Camino. Like we're all like saying, like, "Oh my god!" Like, uh, it got really dark. It was no longer like a kid's property per se. It was just mass genocide of an entire race, literally. Um, except for now say. So really, I'm really excited to see what's going on. I mean, I hope this is obviously not the end of Lucasfilm animation. I know that was Dave's baby initially, so I think that with him there, he's going to push that even more so.
They
Not,
are hiring animators at the moment. I think I've seen a couple of things floating around the
I did. I
Tweety
think,
that Lucas.
yeah,
Yeah,
since they closed down Singapore, which was one of their biggest hubs for animation, which people were worried about, before Bad Batch or next season of Tales of the Jedi, they had a lot of work that was available out there as well. So I think that this is it's just gonna get better. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I am nervous to see what happens to Clone Troop 99 at the end of this because you know I have a feeling like they may be degenerating, throughout the season. That they were made for a certain purpose. They were the rejects, and don't have strong enough genes. I mean, I think that's what's going on with Crosshair's trigger finger at this particular juncture. Is that's time wearing him down. Um, and then we see the treatment of the clone trooper. I mean, we go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, where you saw, Tem as the
begging on the
beggar.
side of the street. What happens when your sole purpose in life is removed? How do you cope?
Right, exactly. So I'm very excited about this. I think I'm loving it. I'm excited to see where it links up and tells more stories because I love filler not just for filler's sake, but to also understand. I mean, also for those things that I mean, like for example, I don't need explanation personally for why Luke went to Octu. All right, I love Last Jedi, and I know you do as well. I don't need explanation to that. Do I need explanation a little bit about Project Necromancer? And probably I would have to say is the worst line in all of film. Somehow Palpatine returns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need some more context. I don't buy that. Okay, he shows up in Fortnite. No. um, so I'm excited about these fillers. I think that was also the intention with Mandalorian was to
To
fill
link
in those
everything in together.
into that 30 years and then prior to make continuity of the timeline.
Yeah, I completely agree. So before we move on from that section, first thing that comes to your mind, your personal highlight for the upcoming release schedule.
I am actually I would say my first choice is Dawn of the Jedi. I am really excited about James Marshall's take on that. He was
Mhm.
originally obviously supposed to be doing the Fett movie when it was supposed to be a Fett movie, and he did Logan. And I love Dial of Destiny. Honestly, I thought that was the. It made me feel like I was a kid again. The way they shot it, it felt like I was watching on 35 millimeter film. The coloring, how Harrison handled storylines and Masala. I think that it's gonna be absolutely fantastic because it's a realm that we don't really know too much about.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, I'm excited about Heir to the Empire just because I love the Mandoverse and I want to see this last battle with Thrawn. Which obviously that's probably gonna be it. If I'm honest, I'm the least excited about the new Jedi Order.
Mhm.
Um, but that's just me. But I'm gonna go see it. Obviously, I'm a Star Wars fan. But that I think out of that slate, that's the one that I'm the least excited about. But I'm intrigued by the fact that I've heard rumblings it might be episode 10. So
Stay tuned for that.
yeah. What's your thoughts, Gary? What's your like lineup?
For the release, I'm very, very excited for The Acolyte. That's one that I think for me has that little bit of a darker tonality. Maybe it's more a martial arts type show. I'm hoping, but as you said, it's a chance to see the formation of the Sith, and on the other side, we've never seen the Jedi as powerful as they were, and so much peace and prosperity throughout the galaxy. But an actual personal favorite that's actually coming up is John Jackson Miller is releasing a prequel era book all about the Jedi Council.
Oh yes.
There, there, there may or may not be a potential interview coming up on a Little Irish podcast, but we'll see about that one. But I think the prequel era still has an enormous amount of stories to tell, and that's where I think it's being slept on right now. Because I've said for a long, long time now, I think small screen has caught up, but I always said the best part of Star Wars the last few years has been the literature between the pages. There have been so many good authors being so creative and being able to bob weave and create an entire universe, particularly with the High Republic. So I think John Jackson Miller's new book will be one for me, but more on that later. But in terms of the small screen, I think it has to be the Acolyte for me personally.
Oh yeah, it's we have some really good stuff coming up. I'm really excited about the future of Star Wars and wherever fast it's going to be. So it's gonna be good.
And we're no doubt going to have multiple conversations about this.
Oh yeah,
So
sure.
yeah, we're almost coming towards the end here, Spencer.
We are, but so you got a show coming up at Dublin Comic Con, which you always have a big presence with. I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a show coming on Saturday the 9th at 3 p.m. Irish time. If Jeff could please bring up there we go. So we are calling it Blabba the Hutt Vision of the Future. And you can read into that title however you like. But because we are here and we are on the VCN, we will be making an exclusive announcement shortly. But some very, very interesting guests this year, Spencer, at the spring edition of DCC. We were, of course, to have Mr. Carl Weathers, who unfortunately passed. So that is.
And he passed the day of the announcement too. Like you were so excited that morning. By the afternoon, you were deflated.
Yeah, I was devastated because anybody who has met him, such a character, such an icon, and no doubt when he got on that stage, he would have so many stories to tell.
Right.
But a really unique guest list, in particular, John DiMaggio. So everybody's favorite robot, Bender. any Futurama fans will obviously be loving what he's doing. But they have a mix of everything. So they have a lot of the cast and the crew from Grand Theft Auto. And what I'm particularly excited about this year is there's actually quite a big Irish presence in terms of writers and comic illustrators. So we have Chris O'Halloran, Gary Erskine, who else have we got? Stephen Mooney. So there's a large Irish presence for this spring event as well, which is really nice. And of course, anybody familiar with Declan Shalvey's work, Declan will of course be there. People would be familiar with Declan via Moon Knight, but he will also be in attendance. So a really nice guest. And one particular actor I'm hoping I can snag an autograph with is Craig Fairbrass, who was Ghost from Call of Duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's a really, really nice varied guest list this year. Baldur's Gate is obviously a big topic as well, considering how much of a maverick that was. So there will be some crew from there as well doing autographs and photo ops. But for ourselves, we will be sort of the primary Star Wars panel, and what we are going to do is we will have a number of things on. But before we do that, could I ask Jeff just to bring up? Yep. So we are going to be making an official announcement for a Dublin Comic Con exclusive. So this will only happen at Blabba Live. So if your butt is not in a seat, you will not be there. So first up is the Empire covers, which were created by none other than the best in the business at the moment, in my opinion, Mr. Paul Shipper. We should mention
a Punta alum.
A Buta alum, and will hopefully be coming on the show fairly soon with what we're about to announce. But also, there are a set of copies making their way to Spencer at the moment. So we did a little bit of a trade. So that was clue 1, which seemed to intrigue people. Then we moved on to clue number 2, which, in my opinion, is one of the greatest documentaries made about in my opinion, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be in Drew Struzan. His work is just incredible, and you've seen this, obviously.
I've seen it. I've also met Drew.
You've met Eric.
I met him on his last tours with the Back to the Future people back in 2017, 2018. They came to Fan Expo Boston. You name it, he made the posters for it. Star Wars, Back to the Future, Mallrats, Goonies. Like, you're talking about somebody who's Police Academy. Like, he's done it all. And if you're in Texas, he's got a gallery, Galactic Gallery, which is run between Drew and good friend of the network, Ben Stevens from Official Picks. You can get original prints as well as reproductions of his work. But Drew Struzan has his fingerprint on pop culture.
And he has inspired so many other artists as well. So then we decided for clue 3, we'd maybe be a little bit less obvious with this one. But in Star Wars, we have the King of the Trolls. So we felt we would throw out a little bit of a troll clue as well. So sort of with this one, the answer was staring people in the face. So at Blabba Live, we are absolutely over the moon to announce that the director of The Man Behind the Poster, Eric Sharkey, has actually given us an exclusive clip from his new documentary all about the maverick that is Mr. Greg Hildebrandt.
That's fantastic.
So we will we are over the moon to have the opportunity to showcase and reveal this clip from the documentary. If you are not familiar with the Hildebrandt brothers, the work that they have done is absolutely astounding. And from his work, again, inspired so many. And the actual documentary itself will feature such artists as, we've mentioned Drew Struzan, we have mentioned Mr. Paul Shipper, ILM legend Phil Tippett will also be making an appearance along with numerous others. So this documentary will be a who's who within the illustration art world, and we are just absolutely delighted that we will be able to showcase that. So if Jeff could bring up number 18, we should have reveal there where people can see that and be familiar with the poster. There we go. So everyone has seen that poster and is very, very familiar with it. But as if that wasn't enough, with this being a Blabba Live show, we will, of course, be giving away some goodies. So our personal Blabba the Hutt baker, R2 Blondie, who better known as Anne-Marie, will be baking some of her homemade goods to give away. And here is just a little sample of what we will be giving away. So there are our Grogu cupcakes, which will be
Fantastic.
handmade for the day. But also, with this being a Blabba Live, we will, of course, have multiple prizes to give away. So if Jeff could move ahead, we have prizes being donated from so many different friends of ours. So that's just some of the items that we will be giving away. You can get some Kyber crystal keyrings. You can get a 3D printed Jawa. And we have some of the collector's edition 2024 calendars, but that's just a very, very very small sample of what we will be giving away on today. So if you are there, we will be talking about Star Wars. We will be showing you an exclusive clip, and we will, of course, have prizes and baked goods to give away on the day to make sure anybody who takes the time out to come and visit us is able to enjoy their event. So there might be one or two surprises along the way as well. We might have to wait a couple of days to find out, but we really hope people will come and join us. And again, we have to say an enormous thank you to Eric for allowing us to showcase this exclusive clip. I can't say what's in it just yet, but it blew my mind when I saw the contents of it. So really looking forward to Blabba Live with this. So again, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to reveal it here on the VCN.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed our collaborations over the last couple of years. And much more to come. In the next couple of years, you never know where the next influx will be. I do know that when we do plan our news desks for Celebration Japan, Gary and MVO will be returning to be doing those shows. So very excited about that and have Gary and the Blabba crew involved in many projects in the future. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much, Gary, for wanting to do this event with us today, to go a little bit behind the scenes of the VCN, but also just to give another perspective of what we do. And also, I want to thank all the fans over in Ireland that we were very conscious about the time change. So you guys would be able to watch this at a reasonable hour. So thank you very much, Gary. I greatly appreciate your ideas and everything you came with today.
No, buddy, it's an absolute pleasure. And one of the main reasons I suppose I wanted to do this was that we're getting so new members, and I really and truly don't think people have any idea the amount of hard work, dedication that goes in from you, from Jeff, from MVO, and all of the cast and characters behind the scenes. It is a truly a wretched hive of scum and villainy, but it is some of the best people you could ever meet, all coming together as one for a common goal. And I think that just says an awful lot about what you guys have put together. And as we said, the trajectory continues to grow and grow, and long may that continue. And this will no doubt be the last conversation or the last meeting between us. I'm sure there will be many more coming down the line, and it's something that I always look forward to. But to say thank you for letting us have a little bit of a Blabba takeover, so we could give people a little bit of a look behind the scenes at the virtual Cantina network.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, and I hope we'll be able to do this in the future for more people. But please, if people want to listen to Blabba live or catch anything what's going on, how can people find you on social media?
So you can find us at Blabba the Hutt on all our social media platforms. You can find us on pretty much any of the podcast apps, whether it's Spotify, Anchor, anything like that. We still do have some upcoming episodes, which we haven't gotten permission to release just yet, but we will also be announcing some more upcoming guests as Dublin Comic Con comes. So the episodes will be coming at you in the not too distant future. So at Blabba the Hutt on all our socials. So with that in mind, Spencer, should we tidy up what we have coming up on the VCN?
Yeah, so we have a whole slew of productions and shows coming up on the VCN this next coming week. Don't forget that tomorrow we're gonna have a new episode of The Unifying Force. If you're interested in the philosophies of Star Wars or pop culture, this is a really great show run with Dave O'Neill, who's one of our EPs over here at the VCN. On Monday, we have Rebels Revisited, which is hosted by Mark Von Owen and Ashley Brienzo. I believe this week they're doing the best of Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is pretty awesome. So check out that show. That's always a fun show between the two of them. Then on Tuesday, we have our happy hour, which we do a lot of. It's on Zoom. We talk pop culture, our meetups. We also use it as a whiteboard for a lot of our ideas back here. So we get like a lot of our member interactions and ideas and to help push along, our different properties and what we do from there. So it's always a great time. As I like to say, shenanigans abound when that show happens. On Wednesday, we have a new episode of The Daughters of the Galaxy, which is a female-centric Star Wars show overlooking female characters throughout the entire saga, whether it be from literature to animation to live action, and talking about their trajectories and where they've appeared in certain aspects. It's really a phenomenal show with Jamie and Ashley. On Thursday, we're going to have our Bad Batch watch along, the virtual VC watch along, which is this week going to be episodes 4 and 5 to get us to catch up as we were finished up our Ahsoka Revisited that actually overlapped the premiere of Bad Batch. This week, Dave and Jeff are going to be joined by Bryce and Ashley on the show. I am
Nice.
going to be on assignment that night. So looking forward to seeing that show. And then, of course, Bad Batch After Hours with our friends from the Jedi Archives, Bryce, John, and Mike, are going to do a review of the show. So that will appear around 12 a.m. Pacific, 3 a.m. in the East Coast, and 8 a.m. Over in Ireland and the English area, the GMT. So check that out. We got a lot of great stuff, but also want you to take a look at our TeePublic store, which has a lot of great designs, whether it be from our original idea arts from back when we first started VCN, all the way through to some of our Boonta Eve designs, through to some great stuff that's happening right now. You guys at teepublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. You get t-shirts, you get pins, you can get sweatshirts. They now start doing hoodies, which zip up hoodies, which is pretty awesome. A lot of our stuff is going to be up there. I got some new designs coming up shortly, but we're very excited about that. But once again, first and foremost, I want to thank the man behind the scenes, Jeff. Thank you very much for throwing this show together and producing for us. We've had a very seamless show. Thank God there was no interruptions on my internet. Thank God it hasn't started yet. But Jeff, thank you very much as always for all your hard work and everything you do for us behind the scenes. I always say that Jeff and Dave are the glue that holds the whole network together. We would not look half as good as we should look if it wasn't for them. So really, they deserve all the kudos for everything that we do here on the VCN in any sort of capacity. And you have not seen anything yet. They're working on some great stuff for the family vacation coming up. But Gary, thank you so much for hosting the show today and being part of our VCN family, and looking forward to future collaborations between the two of us and the Blabba and VCN in the future.
No, thank you, buddy. And once again, thank you so much to you and to Jeff for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And until next time.
Yes. So from Jeff, from Gary, this is Spencer saying, may the force be with you.